Hey guys, it's Chris, aka the Nebraska Watch. Put out a video last year showing some modifications I've done to my Clam Kenai Pro Thermal, and I've made several more since then. So I figured I'd do a walkthrough and kind of show you some of the stuff I've done to it. Maybe it'll give some people some ideas. If not, just kind of show some of the work and money I've put into it. It's gonna be a longer video because I've done several things, so if you're not down to check out some ice fishing stuff for the next several minutes, then yeah, maybe move on to a Taylor Swift video or something like that. So let's get started. The first thing, it doesn't look like much here, but this is, let's see if we can focus in on that. That's the new harness for pulling this thing. I've always just done it with a rope slung over my shoulder. Cracked a vertebrae or two here this year, so even though I've looked at it for a while and said I don't really need that, this year I figured I'd give it a shot and see if that gives my back a little bit of a rest. Ended up having to put some eye bolts in there. That's how they recommend you attach it. I don't know that it's necessary. Right above that, I can show you that I've got my ice chisel mounted there. I tried to find some hook bolts to attach that. Couldn't find any that were suitable, so I just got some eye bolts and cut them and stuck them in some plasti dip. And seems to hold in there pretty secure. I don't think it's going anywhere. That chisel I just bought, I used to have a two-piece, but with this being a one-man, there's not as much room in this sled, so I ended up getting a one-piece, and it didn't even come with a chisel cover, so I just dipped that in plasti dip half a dozen times and peeled it off, and that seems to be a suitable cover for that ice chisel. Let's go around here. First thing that a lot of people notice or have heard about doing is the skis on this shack. If you've got a foot of snow or so, two mans and even one man's can be kind of a bear to pull through the snow. So I went ahead and did this. The hardware there, these are mounts that they're for coffee tables, that the table comes up and out at you, but a lot of people have modified them for ice shacks. All we do here, I'll set it down here for a second so I can kind of show what's going on here. Got a lock here. Unlock that. All you gotta do is lift up the shack and they pop right out. And I'll tell you, that makes it easily, geez, I don't know what the number is, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 times easier to pull than just pulling the sled through the snow. And when you're done, you just push them in, lock them back, and you're good to go. Another thing I did was I had to make some brackets here to anchor the sled down because of the skis. I couldn't just buy, people sell some brackets that will anchor this sled down, but they don't go around the skis, so I just had to buy some steel and throw them in the vise and make them myself. I just put a little piece of steel on there. Then I just have a lag bolt goes through there. I've used my drill and drill her down, and it's not going anywhere. Now, one thing that I did here when I was buying this Kenai, one of the few things that I heard that people weren't happy with is that you usually set these things up with your back to the wind, but something about the way this is designed, you were getting a draft that would come through and kind of rob you of your heat. So since I heard that, I went ahead and, if you look here, bolted one more small strip of steel on here. And how that works, pull this up, just went and bought some cheap neodymium magnets. I don't think they were 10 bucks for a or 12 pack of them. And if you look, I've got it marked out there. I just snapped out these bad boys on there. And I'll tell you what, when these are on, there is absolutely no wind that gets in there. And you don't really have to bother with that too much, because I mean, maybe 1 out of 5 times that you go out is it going to be windy enough that that's really even a concern. So most of the time you're fine, but if it is an issue, I can seal that off. I'm going to go ahead and flip this up. Keep this from getting tangled up. Now the last thing I'll show you before hop in the shed, I guess there might be another thing, but one of the things I'm kind of proud of, I went ahead and I built an Auger Rack right here. If you look, you can see these are just rifle mounts for an ATV that I mounted to a piece of steel that I bolted on, and they hold real sturdy. Auger goes on, yeah, I'm sure my camera work isn't great, but auger goes on about like so. Auger stays, doesn't bounce out or anything. With a one-man shack, there's not a whole lot of room to just be throwing your auger on top, especially when you got your tub full of stuff, so that makes things a lot easier. And this is a brand new auger. I just sold my Strike Master gas auger here this month and went with this pistol grip Milwaukee combo. Might have been a ballsy move to just sell my old auger before I'd used this too much, but the only reason I bought it, I've got a couple buddies that have bought them. One of them goes up to South Dakota and North Dakota all the time, and I've heard some people are worried about whether they'll hold up if you get real thick ice, and he says he's going up and fishing 2-foot plus ice, and all the guys up there that have propane or gas augers, they're always stealing his to drill ice, so I guess it works good enough. Anyway, that's one of my new toys, so but fits in the same auger rack, so that works pretty good. We'll go ahead and set this over here, and then yeah, I guess the last thing I'll say before we hop in here is this is my little buddy heater, and I told myself I wouldn't spend $30 freaking on a piece of metal to cook stuff on my little buddy, and then a week later I was like, it's not worth it. So I went ahead and bought it. I gave it a little bit of a slant because I don't want any grease from any brats or anything going back towards the open flame. But and I've got I'll usually just put tin foil or aluminum foil in there, so that I don't actually have to clean it. I can just throw away the aluminum foil. But it works pretty good. I checked it. I don't have like a IR thermometer, but I just put an old meat thermometer on there, and it was showing me north of 250. So I can definitely warm up hot dogs, or I'm betting I can cook brats on that too. So no more, well, at least I don't have to go with cold sandwiches for lunch every time on the ice. I might be able to get some actual warm food out there. And then another thing, when I bought this, was looking at the way this thing is shaped, and I even bent this up to more of an acute angle than it was, is it's kind of hard to find a place to store that. So when I got those neodymium magnets for the tent, I had 2 left over, and I never really planned on using them until I was looking for a place to store that. I looked and couldn't figure it out. But when I was looking for a place to store this, where it would be out of the way, always in my shack and with my heater, I came up with an idea. One of those rare light bulbs happened. So I went ahead and mounted a piece of steel on here and bolted some of the magnets on. And all I do, see if I can show this while I'm holding this phone. Can you see? Okay. I just go like that. She holds pretty good, stays out of the way. I've always got it with me. So with that, we'll go into the shack. I'm gonna go ahead and fold this over. Ugh. Now, if you look back here, you're gonna see a couple bolts sticking out right here. Those are my mounting bolts for my heater. I used to, with my 2-man, always just stick it on the ice. And that works all right, but I'll tell you what, it's a lot more handy to have actually in the shack. Plus, I don't end up with a swimming pool under my feet. And the actual part of the shack that I use is usually a lot warmer. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in here. I'm not sure if I can do this one-handed, but we'll see. Let's see. Hey, look at that. And that's how she sits, just like that. All right. Now, since it is a little cool here today, we actually got some pretty freezing temps in here last day or two, which is rare for this time of year. But anyway, go ahead and start that up. One of the things that I went ahead and bought for, I don't know, 15 something like that bucks, got that heater mounted right there. And that, I mean, this heater will keep this shack so toasty. You do not want to leave this thing on high, or you will be running out sweating all over the place. So I got it on low, and that heat generally goes right up here. And most guys that have been in a shack know that the top can be at 90 and the bottom's still somewhere around freezing. So this is another thing, this $10, $15 fan here, rechargeable battery. I just go ahead and turn that on. It's angled down towards the ice, and that keeps my entire shack, you know, whatever temp I want, usually somewhere around 70. Most of the guys talking about ice fishing's too cold, they don't realize in here it's room temperature. I'll show you this other thing right here. The other thing about this Kenai is that this spreader pole that usually goes in the back right here to brace against if it's too windy, that doesn't sit in the shed or in the sled at all very well. I mean, you can find a place to put it, but it's always in the way. So I just grabbed these. These are Velcro dealy bobs. I think that's the technical term. Use them for wrapping up 1/4-inch cables for my electric guitar and stuff like that. A couple of those, strap it to this pole, and it's out of the way. Got the clam plate right here. This came with this shack. I was always on the fence about it because it takes up real estate for getting anything below it. But I ended up going ahead and putting that in after I decided that my battery system for all this, right here I've got a 15 amp hour lead acid battery, and that's on the clam battery mount, whatever you want to call it. That sits right there, and those anchor brackets that I showed you, those sit right underneath there. So with that stuff going right underneath there, I'm really not losing much real estate. So I went ahead and put that on. Let's see here. Yeah, that battery happens to have wires on it. Generally works better, and if you follow those around, they come right around here. Let me move my list of stuff to talk about. That comes right here to the console that I built for it. I've seen guys make all sorts of consoles. You make them out of whatever you want. I just I made mine out of plywood scrap that I had left around, and I got some it was either 1 or 1 1/4 inch aluminum angle that there's a frame for it underneath the wood. Just kind of keeps it actually rigid. So went ahead and made that. And I'll go ahead and kind of go through this console here a little bit. First thing you got to do to show it is to hit this power button. You can see that it's a lighted power button. And, you know, that may not be the coolest thing, but I'll tell you what, everything that this console runs gets shut off and on by that power button. So at the end of a long day, I don't have to worry about going through everything and shutting everything off individually. I just press that bad boy, and I know that whatever juice I've got left in that battery is good to go for the next day when I head out. Then I'll show you the front of it here. I've got a three gang rocker panel, and I'll tell you what those are for here in a second. Before I do, I'll show you, this is just a regular cigarette lighter charger, and this has two USB chargers. I'm not sure if I'm showing things right here or in focus or any of that, but you get the point. So all the stuff that I've got, I can charge off of there real well. Now I'll go through what the panels are. This back rocker, that is what I call my tub light. That's just a Clam light bar, and it lights up my tub. So when you're looking for stuff, you can find it. The middle rocker, that is actually these, I call them my ice lights. They are not really necessary, but I'll kind of I'll tell you why I actually got those. I do use them, but like I said, they're not absolutely necessary. But that's what the middle rocker is, and the front rocker is my jig charger, my ice hole UV jig charger. I've also mounted a battery gauge on there just so I can make sure that I've got enough charge to go. If you look right in back of that, you can see I've got the Clam bait bucket sitting there. It's nice and out of the way. I think they're supposed to be installed up here so that you can flip them forward and use them right here, and then when you don't need it, you can flip it back. But obviously I can't flip it back, so I just mounted it back there, and it is not a big deal to reach back and grab a minnow. As a matter of fact, it's pretty easy. I guess since I've got the camera there, I bought that soft cooler specifically because it fit perfectly in there and was as big as I could get in there, and still you know, I can store plenty of stuff in it, but it wasn't too big and spilling over or getting in the way of anything else. All right, well, since I've been moving this around, I'll show you my seat here. You might notice that this is an Eskimo seat. I think I'd have rather had the Clam seat. I think they're pretty much identical as far as the construction of them, but when I went to buy it, Clam was out of stock for the next 7 months, so I got an Eskimo seat in here. These whatever you want to call them, fabric seats, they are a lot more comfortable than the plastic seats they send with it. And the seats that come with these Kenais don't even have the cushions on them. And I'll show you the reason that they don't is because it's got this bar system in here, and it just comes with these two plastic whatever you want to call them that ride along these rails. And originally they're both just like this, and so the seat only pushes back and forth, but it doesn't swivel, and it sure can't pull up. So what I did, I saw some other guys doing it. I took this one, threw it in the table saw there, and just cut it straight down, and that way it rests, but I can pull it up. I had to build a little base, add a swivel, and attach that to the seat, but now I can swivel around as much as I want. I can pull this up and have access to everything underneath. It's a lot nicer than the seat system that they send with it. Done with the seat. Talked about the bait bucket. Now we'll talk about the actual bucket here. Hold on, I'm gonna relight my little buddy here because I don't want it just pumping out. Am I out of, I might be out of propane. That'll be interesting to watch. There we go. Well, we got light. We'll see if it actually stays lit. Anyway, next thing, this bucket back here. Another thing I've seen on Kenais is that people like to put a bucket back there to hold stuff, but it's just, it kind of fits, but kind of doesn't in between those rails. So I just added a couple pieces of wood, bolted them on there, and then it just slides right on top of there. As you can see, it is coated with, it's not Reflectix, it's the Menards version, but same stuff. Most of it's covered with the stuff for ducks and the other, anything that I couldn't get that foam Reflectix stuff around, I just covered with the tape for taping that stuff up. I'll tell you, it, like I tried it with just the bucket, and I noticed I wasn't worried about the bucket like bursting into flames or melting. Never did that. But that bucket would be, man, like 160, 170 degrees. It was getting warm. And like I said, it wasn't the bucket melting that I was particularly worried about. I'd left that heater on, didn't seem to melt the bucket. But anything that I might have in there, whether that be electronics or wax worms or what have you, that wasn't gonna survive too long in that bucket, with it being 170 degrees in there. And I put that on, and I'll tell you what, I was surprised. I'm not an AC installer or heater HVAC installer, but I was surprised because with this on, I can stick my hand right here, and the front of my hand is freaking burning. But when I touch this, it's like 60, 70 degrees. I didn't know that Reflectix stuff worked that good, but it really does. So I'm pleased with it. We'll move on. I'll go up here. You can see that I've got my coat hook. I kind of have to hang it on that hook and then tuck it back behind here. Gets my coat out of the way. This is my Bluetooth clip speaker. Got another one of those straps up there. And this is actually a pretty decent speaker up there. When I am using it, I can probably turn it up to 5 out of 10 because it can be way too loud for this thing. So it's pretty decent for my entertainment system. Some of the guys, instead of a coat hook, this clam actually, let me see if I can get back here and show you. Right here is actually, it comes with a mesh pocket kind of storage thing, and I absolutely freaking hate it. You cannot jerk an ice rod up and not get it tangled in this mesh, and heaven forbid you have like a spring bobber or something on there. You'll be digging it out for days. So I just went ahead and cut that off. Just bugged the crap out of me. I did keep one of the loop attachments for it on there, and I just went ahead and bought rags come in handy when you're fishing, and this one I can just reach up here and wipe my hand, or if I need it somewhere else I can pull it off because it's got a little magnet on there. So that's worked out pretty good for me. Let's see, what do we got next? On the auger holder I showed you, since I have this thing up here, it really doesn't get in my way. You'd think it would, but with this chair, my legs are right here. With the side of it here, my legs really aren't right here, so the auger holder doesn't get in the way. But since it's there, I went ahead, I got these are the Auger rod holders, and the hardware doesn't work with the clam system here, but I just went ahead and drilled through that steel, added some square bar on here, drilled and tapped a tightening bolt, And let me see. I'll grab this bad boy. And I'll throw it in here, and you can see holes in my pole, kind of as a pole holder should. And I've got another one on this side, so keeps me set for 2 poles. One of the big things that it seems stupid, but that I really like is this. It's called a crow's foot. Let's see if I can take this off here. It's a crow's foot phone holder. I think it's meant for bikes or something. It just it attaches on there to those poles, and then you can, hold on, just snap a phone in there, and then I will just connect that with Bluetooth to my speaker right here. And yes, you're right, I should be watching my flasher, and hopefully I am, and catching fish. But if they're a little slow, I can watch me some Netflix and just chill out. That thing is actually really nice. I think I'm skipping something. I'll look at the list here in a second. We're about done, but one of the things that I always try and tell people is Clam is notorious. I've been buying Clam stuff for a couple decades, and it's just a matter of fact, the zipper pull tabs that they sell on any Clam products are absolute crap. So I just go to Menards, I buy these, they're sold as keychains. They come with the little carabiner on there. So I've got like 20 carabiners, but they're like $1 a piece. And I actually replaced all of the zippers on my Rise float suit that I bought with these things in a nice Clam blue. But on my shack here, I made them orange, and I've got a neon yellow on the outside just because they're easier to see. If you're ever buying any Clam stuff, make sure you do that, because yeah, the pull tabs they sell them with are just crap. The only thing I haven't gotten done yet is right about here on this pole. I've got some two-way radios that I've convinced a couple buddies to get a one-man, and just makes it a lot quicker if you got a bunch of single people out looking for fish. And then when you find them, you can all scoot in together and either talk through the canvas or use your two ways. But I'm going to mount something like you see on big rigs, where I can snap it in, and then when I want it, I can pull it out and have a lanyard on it, so I don't have to worry about dropping it. I'm going to do that with a two-way radio system. Oh, and the only other thing that I'd say is kind of like, what the heck, Clam? This window up front, great window, but when you open it, I mean, if you look here, it's sitting up here like 4 or 5 inches from the front. It's like, couldn't you just add some Velcro on there? So I'm going to try and learn to sew. It may not look the best, but I'm going to sew some Velcro on the back side of this so that I can just snug it up against the back here, because I have hit that when I'm jerking a fish that's biting and miss the fish because of it. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I think basically I'm just trying to show you that what this thing is made for is to be a hole hopper. That's why I got the Kenai that doesn't have the extendable poles. Literally, when I get to a new spot, it takes me all of maybe 10 or 15 seconds to flip this over and turn on the heater, and I'm fishing. Versus realistically, when I add my 2-man, and I'm going to get another 2-man, but probably 75% of the time I'm out fishing, I'm by myself, because I probably go more than most people. But that's what this thing is made for, is just hole hopping, get where I want, flip it over, be as comfy as possible in the meantime. So since you guys went ahead and watched for the entire 15 or 20 minutes or whatever this has been, this has nothing to do with the shack itself, but I have these iFish Pros, and I bought these They are blue tips, tip-up indicators, and I figured I'd show them to you real quick because they're pretty freaking cool. You're not going to be able to see the message it shows my phone, but I've checked it out. You will be able to hear it. So I'll be fishing and I'll have my tip-ups out. We can have 5 here in Nebraska, and while I'm fishing there in my shack, this flag's going to go off, and it's going to go,
"Dude, your flag is up. Dude, your flag is up."
dude, my flag is up. That's that one. I'm going to put that down. Probably don't have to put that one in. And you can set different tip-ups to different notifications.
Tip up! Tip up! Tip up! Tip up!
Okay, that's that. I've realized that this phone hasn't been focusing well, so you might have to use your imagination on some of this, but at least you've seen some of the stuff I've done and maybe gotten some ideas for yourself. Been a long enough video, so thanks for watching. Tight lines, and well, good luck fishing. We'll see you.